Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Growing Up with Godzilla. My name is Donny Winter, and this is my show where I have conversations with Godzilla fans about how they've grown with the character and franchise over time. We've had some really great conversations this season so far, and I've been nerding out at every opportunity possible. And we're going to be doing that today as well because we have someone coming on who I've been wanting to pester for a while. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome Cuypers of GojiFan93. Hello, how are you?
Hello, everybody. I am great. I am super happy to be on the show. I've watched a couple of the episodes, and I have been anticipating this for quite a while because we talked about this when February, I think, is when you came up to me to see if I could do this. So yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
while.
I try to schedule far in advance because with my schedule, like if I don't, then I'm a very flaky person, so that's why.
Oh no,
Um,
yeah, no, I understand.
but you having watched a couple of episodes, that's like the biggest compliment that I could ever receive. So thank
Mhm.
you so much. I really appreciate that. Like I said earlier, I've been really excited to have you on because we've met at G Fest, I think a couple of
Yep.
times,
Yep.
and we've had like a few conversations, but we've never really sat down to like delve into our Godzilla souls, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, no, this
so
is like the
I'm
first time. Yeah.
yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited for our conversation. But congratulations are in order. You recently got married,
Yes, I did.
right?
Yep, right there.
Oh my goodness, that is so wonderful. Well, like obviously, even though we've not really had a lot of opportunities to talk, like we keep eyes on each other and what we've been
Yeah,
doing and stuff like that. And
for
there have
sure.
been some wonderful things happening in your life, and I'm really happy for you because you deserve all
Thank
of
you.
those wonderful things.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. And then although you have been recently, was it engaged or married?
Yes, I just got engaged. Well,
Engaged.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that because when I announced it, I wasn't super descriptive. And
Oh.
I had like family members being like, "Did you just elope? Did you
Oh.
get married with a?" And I was just like, "Oh my God, no, we got
You're like, no, no,
we
no.
got engaged. It wasn't, no, we didn't elope, you know."
Right, right.
It was really,
That's
but yeah,
funny.
thank
That's
you.
funny. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations to you then.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So, rewinding back, I think the first time we met was at G Fest 2019.
Yep.
Uh, I'm fairly sure it was that because that was the G Fest where they did the Michiru Oshima concert,
Yeah, the
right?
concert. Yep.
And I remember, well, I don't know what I'm trying to remember how it went. I think you like ran up to me and you recognized me, and I was just like, oh my God, Chris recognizes me. What is happening right now? And it was such a wholesome moment, but I was just like, wow, like
Yeah.
that was so cool. That was
No,
so
I
cool.
remember. I still have the pictures from that G Fest, and I still have the one with us. We're doing like a selfie, and then it was in the lobby area of the concert theater, and I recognized you because the first time I heard about you was way back in, I want to say it was 2016, I think, or something like that, and it's when I did my kaiju discussion about the state of the G fan base or whatever, or the community, and then you made a response video about it. And so of course, I like look at those responses, and then I saw you doing one, so I was like, hey, I know that guy. And so then when I saw you there, I was like, oh, I gotta say hi, it was that guy. So, and that's how it
Well,
began.
that was a full circle moment for me, so thank you. Well, like, so I had watched your YouTube channel for a long time, and I had also been on YouTube for a long time, but I I know like, I really enjoyed a lot of your videos, like, because you were very diverse with the different types of videos that you would do. Like, you would
Mhm.
do, like, game commentary videos, you would do, discussions like that, like the state of the fan base discussion, and I am a loudmouth when it comes to talking about the state of the fan base, so, like, when I saw
Yeah.
that video, I was just like, "Well, I'm going to throw my opinion out there and just interact and see what happens," and I think that we created, like, a really good conversation and stuff like that
Oh yeah.
with those videos, so now I do we will be talking a little bit more about YouTube in a few minutes, but
Yeah.
first, obviously, none of this would be happening if we weren't Godzilla fans in the first place, right? Like,
Of
obviously, that
course.
is kind of the central root of everything. So,
Yes.
what was your journey like? Like, where did you begin as a Godzilla fan? How did it all happen?
Oh yeah. So for me, it was back when I was 2 years old. My dad showed me the original film, but and he's clarified with me on this on many occasions, because I always thought it was '84 that was the first film that I saw, but it really was the original. Which, good job, Dad, thank you. But yeah, that was the first one. But obviously, since I was two, I really couldn't like comprehend what I was looking at. I was still too young. I don't remember it at all. But it was then, I think, '84, watching that one was like when I really started to like understand what I was looking at, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a character named Godzilla. Like, this is really cool, and I started to get really into it. And it was probably around like maybe 5 years old when I started to really get into the character. Because obviously at that time I was like into like Spider-Man too, and like reading comic books and playing with my little action figures. And so of course, that's Treadmasters was coming out with their Godzilla figures at the time, like the late '90s. And of course my parents would go, and we'd go to like the mall, and we'd go to a toy store that was called KB Toys. I don't know if you remember. Like, do you remember KB Toys?
Oh, what a throwback. What a
Yes.
throwback.
And they would always have just shelves of Godzilla stuff. And I would, yeah, I would, pester my parents to buy me a bunch of figures. And one of the stories that I remember, that my parents always will remember, it was like an infamous story that they told me if I did my chores, and I worked really hard. And I've said this story many times, but it's just so fun to bring up, that there was they had like a large scale Treadmasters figure of Godzilla, and I think it was the one with, he like had like sound effects come out of him, and he also had like armor on him. It was,
Oh,
Treadmasters
yeah.
was a weird line, but so
But an
they told me,
iconic one.
a very iconic one, yes. And they told me like, okay, do your chores for a week, and we'll get you this guy. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I did my chores. I was like the best kid ever, right? And then it was the weekend came up, and they're like, okay, let's go to the mall. Let's go get the thing. And they go up, and when we get to the store, sold out. They did not have the figure at all, and I was just like, oh, and they're just like,
Oh,
oh my God, we gotta figure this out. And so that was like one of the funniest moments. And then yeah, from there it just kind of the internet then was coming out, and I started to learn more about the franchise. I learned that there was a bunch of films, a lot of the Showa stuff, and then of course like on TV, like the Sci-Fi Channel, TNT, with like the marathons of Godzilla would be coming out. And my parents and I, well, mostly my dad, would wake up like super early with me to then get our VHS tapes that we would put in and record TV. And so wake up real early, make sure we had the TV guide ready to go, and we'd hit record when those movies would play. And those ones were mostly the '70s ones, so we're like Hedorah, Megalon, Gigan, a lot of those cheesy ones. But that's where I really got that intro. But of course, since it was the '90s, the Heisei stuff was going on, but of course, it wasn't really readily available in the States. So
mhm.
I only really knew about those films through like the VHS tapes that rarely showed up in certain stores. I think sometimes Blockbuster might have had a few at some times, but it
Yeah.
was hard to find. But when I did get my hands on them, it was really cool. I think one of the first ones, the Heisei, and was probably King Ghidorah. That was probably one of the first Heisei films I saw, along with like Mothra. But and I was starting to grow a steady collection. It was like I had a bunch of VHS tapes, and then DVDs were starting to come out. And then 2004 happened with the whole celebration with Godzilla. Final Wars came out. Yeah, the video games come out. I mean, the video games was a whole other thing too. I mean, Destroy All
Oh,
Monsters Melee
right.
was like my bread and butter with that. And so I mean, yeah, from there I just became so like, this is like my most favorite fictional character ever. And I there, it's funny, like when people ask me like what is about the character that just is like over anything else, like over any other superhero or any other thing, there sometimes it's really hard to explain exactly why this character resonates with me so much. but I think it's due to a lot of factors. I think it's because of the metaphors that what Godzilla represents and how serious it can be taken, but also how versatile the character can be in terms of like what role he plays, whether he's a villain or he's an anti-hero or a hero to kids, or he's cleaning up after the smog monster or something like that. But I think also like the music is a big thing. I love just the scores that these movies can produce.
Me too.
And I think I would say probably the biggest thing is also the filmmaking aspect of it. I cannot get enough of seeing how they make those films. And as a kid, it's what inspired me to want to make films, or to at least want to create content or something, because it was due to the fact of watching these films and seeing just the artistry and the craftsmanship that goes into it. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest thing with Godzilla. And then just all the crazy stories that go on with this franchise too. I think that's just one of the things.
Yeah, there are
Yeah,
some uniquely interesting ones, aren't there?
that's
So
yes, that's for sure.
I went down a nostalgic wormhole, like, when you were, like, describing all of that, because as a '90s kid myself, like, the Trendmasters figures were, like, kind of like my first, like, gallivant into,
Yes,
collecting, right? But, like, also, like, I do remember that time where, like, we barely got to see any Heisei films, and we were just, like, getting, like, small little tidbits of them, like, the figures themselves were, like, the first little tidbit.
that's how we
I've
got to
told this
figure out what they were. We're like, what's Space
exactly,
Godzilla? And it was through Trendmasters that showed us, here's what Space Godzilla is. We're like, oh,
right?
yeah,
Right? I like, so you we all know that I'm a shameless Mothra fan, but, like, when I saw Batra, I was just like, "What is
right.
this? What is this gothy looking Mothra, and what is going on?"
What are
So
they doing?
what are they doing? So, of course, like, I was mind blown when I finally got to see the films. My first film, and I've shared this a couple of times on the show, was Godzilla versus Biollante from the Heisei era.
Not a bad
Shock to
first.
shock to my system. It was a shock to my system because I had grown up watching the Showa films, so, like, when I saw that one for the first time, I was horrified, you know?
Yeah,
But now I'm like, "Ah, this is one of my favorite films. It's so wonderful."
it is. Yeah.
So, okay, so as you continue to grow, like, content creation and just creation in general, I think became very significant for you, right? So,
Very much.
what was the catalyst for that? Like culminating, of course, in your YouTube channel, and even culminating all the way up until now, where like it's literally part of your expertise, like that creation, right? So talk a little bit about that.
So, yeah, I mean, it started when I was like a little kid. I was making comic books, just on plain pieces of paper, and I would make like my own Godzilla comics, and I still have a few. Like parents actually saved a lot of the stuff that I would make as a kid. So I'd have like Spider-Man comics, Power Ranger comics, and Godzilla comics that I would make. I'd have like my own little storylines with them, and just I would always love to just make stuff. Even when I mean, and a lot of kids really at that age, we'd have like our toys, our little figures, and we just sit on the living room floor and just start making up our own storylines and having the characters play it out. And then even in school, like my friends in elementary, we would make up stories and play them out on during recess and stuff, and we were always like mini directors at that point, like, okay, you should do this and then we'll do that. Or sometimes we would just go completely blind and just make a whole thing out of nothing. And then it with in high school, I started to take some like art classes and like Photoshop classes, and that got me into like the techie side of creation. And I really got into that, and then a little bit of video stuff, minor video stuff here and there. But then 2012 was probably like the big start of it. And I've made a tribute video last year, but when I was at Exosphere, that was like the first major thing that I did with my friends. We all came together. We're like, okay, we want to make games, we want to make movies, we want to make whatever. So we made like our own little studio, and then we went on from there. But that didn't, it didn't last long. It was only like about a year, because of course we're in high school, but that was our senior year. And so then, we graduated, and of course, like, just life happens and people start to go their own ways and their own paths. And so, a couple of my friends, I'm still connected with a lot of my friends in that group, but, some of them lost a little bit of their creativity, like, mindset, but I never lost it. Like, I always just wanted to continue to make stuff. And like, January happened, and in 2013, and I just decided, I was like, yeah, what if I just made a channel that just was like a hub for Godzilla? I just don't remember, like, did I wake up one day and was just like, yeah, let's just rip some trailers and put it on a YouTube channel, and rip some game trailers from the Pipeworks games and just put it on. And then from there, of course, like, YouTube slammed me with all kinds of copyright strikes and everything like that. So
yeah,
I tried to, like, maneuver around it. And then I made Godzilla Game Battles, was like my first original series, you could say. And then I did my first unboxing video of the best of Heisei soundtrack, and I think it was Godzilla 2000. And that was the first time I showed my face on camera. And so from there is when I started to get, like, the personality behind the channel. Like, this isn't just a faceless channel, that there's a personality behind it. And then I started to get people, they started watching me, and it was so cool because it was kind of this addicting, like, thing, because growing up all through school, like, I was bullied, and I was an outcast. I was a nerd, a geek, or whatever. Like, I was not in the in crowd. People didn't care about me. It was just me and my friends that were really the ones that we stuck together. So getting this much attention from strangers was this weird feeling. It was like, oh, like, people actually care about, like, what I'm doing. This is kind of cool, And of course, it made it even better because we were connecting through a similar interest of Godzilla. So it just made things even more fun, to do. And I started to take, like, requests, like, what kind of top 10 do you want to see? Like, shout out in the comments below. And so that started to get that interaction going. And that's what made the content, was people asking me, like, hey, do a top 10 of this, or do whatever. And then it's just, from there, it just all, spilled out. And then, of course, 2014 was coming out. So the marketing machine was starting to happen with that. And I was, doing reaction videos and talking about it. And then that obviously spiked the channel. But we all know the infamous video that really snowballed the channel was, what I'm talking about, was the rage of, where's the effing trailer? And that was I'm not proud of it anymore. Like, I look back at that video and I'm just like, oh my God, like, I'm the kind of fan that I despise nowadays. But it
was iconic. It was iconic.
Like, oh my God. And and after that video, it really cemented. It was like, okay, this is where we're going. And from there, just, the rest is history. It's crazy.
And have you had an existential crisis yet over the fact that it's been 10 years?
I've had many existential crises in the last 10 years of things. Obviously, a lot of what I would say is imposter syndrome, or what's the other one? Like, identity crisis, like, not really knowing what I'm doing. Because when, like, I was doing GojiFan for so long, and then I started to feel like I was getting trapped in a box. And so I tried to do other things, and then those other things weren't really taking off, and people were still looking at the Godzilla stuff. And we all know that, and so that's what, went down the trail of all of a sudden, like, feeling like, I don't really know if this is what I want to do. And then, of course, personal life stuff was going on, and that can really mess with you mentally. And then, the figure collecting, which I know is a big topic that we're probably going to talk about later. But, the figure collecting is something that I'm very passionate about now, and how, like, the addictiveness of it. Is that even a word? Addictiveness? If not, I'm making it up. But yeah, like, that really messed me up mentally back then. And so there was a lot of, like, I would say between 2016, well, really 2014 was, like, the hardest year. And then, like, to 2016, 17, 18 was, like, really tough. 2019 was probably the worst of it, maybe, because that's when, like, I shut down everything. Like, I just left the internet, and, like,
the great shutdown.
The great shutdown of 2019.
Shut down gate.
Yeah, actually, I think it was 2018, because if 2019, I remember, no, that was actually 2018. That's right. Great shutdown of 2018, because 2019 was where that's when I started to like, get my life turned around and started to figure stuff out. And that's when I actually found my wife. And, that helped a lot of stuff. And then 2020 happened and COVID was obviously a thing. And then I just started to get that itch where I was like, I'm not happy where I'm at right now. I'm not like, there's this part of me that just still wants to create stuff. And that's when I was like, all right, you know what? Let's just do this. No gimmicks, no anything. Let's just make a channel that is just me, and I'll do whatever I want, and it's going to be great. And so CJCuypers Productions was born. And then from there, like literally one of the first videos was a Godzilla video. So it was just it was like this hilarious like series of events where I could, it's so funny. Like I could literally imagine like God's just laughing. He's just going like, he thinks he's not going to make Godzilla stuff anymore. That's funny. Like it's just so hilarious how like, oh, I feel new and refreshed. I'm going to make all this content. And one of the first things I do is a Godzilla video. And so from there, it just sort of, spiraled down into this thing where I was like, yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's fun making the Godzilla stuff again. I mean, it's not bad. And then the 10-year anniversary was coming up, and I was like, all right, what am I going to do about this? Like, what should I do? And then from there, yeah. And I made like a whole tribute video about it, and I go into depth about that. I mean, I could talk to hours about that whole process, but really it was just a matter of getting so involved with this tribute, where originally it was supposed to be just like maybe a simple, hey guys, it's been 10 years. That's great. To then turning into, hey, there's actually people that have saved all my videos and I can re-upload and kind of remake the channel and just keep it as an archive thing. And that's great. To then, while I was getting everything ready, I was getting so absorbed into my history of what I was doing. And I looked at that and I was like, I miss that so much. And I miss the community that I had and the people that I would talk to and the people that I would meet. And then that's when it turned into, you know what, I can't fake it anymore. Like, this is who I am. Like, this is a part of me. It's not this alter ego. It's not this thing that I have to fight or this shadow that I have to somehow try and like overcome. Like, it's just me. I'm just a guy talking about Godzilla on the internet. It's not that big of a deal. Like, and that's, yeah. And so that's why now the channel's back and everything's in full force, and I'm still doing my other stuff on the side, and I'm married and I graduated, and everything is just, it's like, it proved to me that GojiFan was not the reason that I was in such a bad place back then. It was really just, I needed a big break. I needed a long break. And here we are. So, yeah.
I absolutely, well, I mean, I really resonated with that because as a fellow creative soul, like sometimes like you really invest yourself so much in something that I don't want to necessarily say you might lose yourself in it, but like there's recovery time, right? Like it takes
Yep.
time to recover from like all of that output. I want to back up a little bit to the beginning of when you talked about creating the channel as well, because you talked a little bit about like the validation that we get from creating that community from the get-go and like watching it like really grow, and your channel grew like very fast. Like I remember watching it like every single day. Like if I looked at it, I'd be like, it would get bigger, it would get more views, and I was just like, yes. But like whenever there is something that kind of creates that sense of belonging, I think that that's something that we've craved. You mentioned that you had been bullied, that like you felt like an outcast as well. Like obviously that's something that I hella resonate with. And the truth is like Godzilla became like that first escape for me where I was able to feel a sense of belonging through these fictional worlds, right? But what I think is really empowering especially is the fact that so many of us Godzilla fans bond over that outcast state, or they bond
Right.
over not having other friends to bond with over, liking Godzilla. But
Exactly.
you created community for other people through that channel, which I think is this very meta for full circle moment that I'm just like that is so cool. Like,
Yeah.
and like even in like the last two, like I've been doing this show for about 2 years now, and I people have labeled me a Godzilla YouTuber, but I kind of do everything. Like I've never
Right.
really stuck to one thing because I guess like I'm kind of afraid of sticking to one thing. But
Mhm.
then once I started doing this show, like it started taking off, which I
Right.
was not expecting it. And I kind of felt that same degree of like community building where I was just like, wow, like I feel like that improved sense of belonging in the Godzilla fandom itself
Mhm.
that I had never felt before because of, like you were saying earlier, that like imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
So I absolutely resonate with everything that you said. Um, I remember seeing like so many, like a smattering of small YouTube channels, like clangering to save your videos when
I
you
know.
announce
Yeah.
the, and
All
like,
yeah.
oh, I was, it was really cool to see that. And it sounds like you were able to tap into those people to help you to
I
bring
mean,
this new channel to life. You wanna talk about that a little bit?
yeah, I mean, it was single-handedly um those people, like that's what the weird thing was, is like when you were talking about how you create like a community inside of a community, like own little circles and things like that. And how my channel, I would have never met you. I would have never met like my best friend Nico, like who now we run Kenshin Studios. Like I would never have met these people if I didn't make the channel. And so like the fact that I have these friends now and we can bond over similar interests and stuff, um, it's just crazy how when I left, like not even the retirement, but like when I did the deletion of the channel, which I fully regret. That is what the retirement is something that I feel I needed to do, but I feel like that's all I should have done. But the deletion was just out of pure anger. Like that was way not what needed to happen. But
Mhm.
we live and learn. And again, I think everything happens for a reason. That I think the fans that saved those videos and that were archiving stuff throughout those years, it just it touched something in me. It was just like the fact that people cared about what I did, even though I was just some random guy talking about God's on the internet. But for some reason, people were like saying that I was their childhood, or that I helped them get through a hard day at work or school, or they were excited to come home and see what new upload I had. Like there's a certain amount of like responsibility with that, but also just this like, oh crap, like I'm making an impact on some people, and I have this certain like thing where I kind of have to maintain that in a way. And it's not like a bad responsibility. It's more of like this sense of purpose and like, oh, this is what I meant to do then. Like great, like this is awesome. And when I was doing the trying to figure out the like, to re-upload all the videos, there were two people, and I can't remember them off the top of my head, but um, Monster Man Mike, I think was his name. He knows, who you are. He saved the day when I put out that video, that infamous September deadline day, where it was just a black screen and I had text saying, "Hey, channel's gonna be deleted. You have about a week to salvage all this stuff if you want." Again, video made out of anger. I really like the video is
I
on.
remember that, like, oh my gosh, like, everybody was like, "What's going," like, a
Yeah.
collective gasp, you know?
And I feel so bad about it. And like the video I did re-upload because I wanted it to be there for like a historical like purpose. But I still don't like looking at it because I'm like, man, that was not me.
Mm,
That was someone very angry at the world and just not wanting anything. But
right.
there was still that part where I was like, you still got a week. So like if it wasn't for me giving people that week, we would not be sitting here. Like my
Right.
whole future would have changed dramatically. So again, I know God was looking at me going, I'll let you do this, but we got to give you a week. Give them a week because it's gonna come back around. Trust me, it's gonna be good. And yeah, so the what he did, what Monster Man Mike did was he when that happened, when he saw that video, he was like, "Oh, okay, grab my hard drive and we're just going." He literally downloaded almost, I would say, 97% of the whole library, and I had like 1,500, like 1,400 to 1,500 videos. It was a lot. And like I even remember D-Man1954, who's also a good friend of mine, and also a well-known person in the Godzilla community now. He also was trying to salvage everything too, and he had a team of people that were like, okay, let's make it was called the Goji Fan Heritage channel, and it's still up.
Oh,
And he
I
was like,
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, he was like, let's make this and let's put everything up. And unfortunately, he said that he was trying to download so much that it almost like destroyed his computer, so he had to stop. And so it was just like you had little pockets of people that were uploading certain videos of mine. Like you had some people that were like uploading the reviews, some people were uploading the Let's Plays. And it was just so cool to see how, again, what I did and how people rallied to save that stuff because it was that important to them. And then when Monster Man, I'm just gonna say Mike, when Mike came up to me and said, like, when he, because he tweeted at me and he said, hey, I have all your videos, like, pretty much. And my heart dropped. I was like, wait, what? And then
I would have cried. I would have cried.
I mean, I was like, I was getting there because he had a friend, Tokaizu, I think was his name, and he sent me screenshots of, and all this is behind the scenes. You can see on the tribute video as well. But like, he sent screenshots of all the thumbnails, like every single thumbnail that I made back then. And I was looking at this, and I vividly remember I was in the car with my wife, and we were driving. I think we got like frozen yogurt, and because we just got finished watching a movie, and we were driving back home, and I was on my phone looking at the Google Drive folder that had the thumbnails, and they were in order with the playlists that they were a part of. And it was this, like, I haven't seen these thumbnails in years, and it just brought back so much emotions to me. And I was like, all right, God, I get it. Like, I see what you're doing here. And it was just meant to be, like, and of course, one of the biggest things is I made sure that my wife I'm in 100% communication with her, that I don't hide anything when it comes to this thing. Like, I've let her know my history. I've let her know my past. I've let her know my addictive tendencies and how sometimes I can get too far ahead of something. And, so she knows that. And so the biggest thing is asking her, is this okay if I come back to the channel? Like, is this okay if I'm become Goji fan again? And she was like, yes, because she wants to see me happy. She knows that it makes me happy, but she also was like, but I will let you know, I will call you out when you start to lose yourself again. And I was like, that's what I need. I need someone in my corner that is going to be like, hey, whoa, slow down. Don't go crazy and delete everything, but hey, maybe take a step back and just kind of like focus on other things. And then we'll, get back to this. So that's why the graduation was perfect, because graduation happened in February. So I was mainly focusing with school before coming back to Goji Fan as well. So that was nice to get that done. I could take that off my plate and then, devote time to this. And so, I mean, she's been a rock star. Like, it's why I married her. I mean, it's like, because she's the person that keeps me accountable, but she's also the person that encourages me to go forward with this stuff that makes me happy. And it's just like, I really could not have done it without her. It's something.
That's
and then
wonderful.
even support with my parents is a big thing too. They're way, like, big heroes behind the scenes when it comes to the stuff that I do as well. So yeah, but again, like, seeing people take such a seriousness in some guy's videos on YouTube about a giant fictional monster is crazy to me. Like, it's just like, wow, okay, like, people really cared about what I affected people. When I made my retirement video, there was this infamous video about this kid that he was talking about how sad he was about it. The kid was almost crying on camera, and my mom was furious about it. She's like, you made that kid cry. And I was like, I'm sorry.
Oh.
So it's just like, so now I know that this community that I have, and I still have people that are coming to the channel, and they're like, wait, you came back? How come I didn't know about this sooner? And they're like looking at all this stuff, and they're like, you've uploaded everything again? That's fantastic. And it's just so heartwarming to know that people just didn't forget about me, and that people have just welcomed me back into the community with open arms. And it's like, it's like that's the great side of the community that I remember. Like that's what I remember. That brings me right back to 2013, where all of us were just having fun and we weren't bickering over little things, and it was just it
Right.
was awesome stuff. Yeah. So it was a lot of it is
That's
due to my audience. They saved the channel. They really did.
that's so
Yeah.
wholesome. Like, see, the thing is, for so many years, you provided an outlet and engagement for the community, and then the community had your back,
Yeah.
after all of it, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I can only imagine how validating that must have been to see that, because again, like, as someone who has struggled with that imposter syndrome and like that creative burnout, like
Mhm.
it is so debilitating. And sometimes, like, even seeing, like, a small little flicker of, like, that support, like, will do so much, but seeing that support in mass, like,
Yeah.
that's great. That is
And
really
I
great.
don't, I don't look at the numbers as much as I used to. But there is a part of me that still obviously, I'm more of an adult now. I have more responsibilities to do. So I am trying things with the channel. Like I've been posting shorts now to try and drive traffic up a little bit. So I'm like halfway of playing the YouTube game, but also making sure that it's not something where I'm trying to make this a full career, because I know deep
Right.
down this isn't something that really is going to make the big bucks where I'm going to be able to like live off this, unless I was like super lucky or whatnot. But that's why school was important for me. It was like, since I graduated from Full Sail, I have that in my pocket to find like the bigger job, the bigger career job. But the thing is I still need something that is just to make fun content on YouTube that keeps me sane while I'm doing the bigger adult stuff, like, like bigger career jobs or
Yeah.
whatnot. And then also my other brand, and the thing too, that was the hardest part too, was fighting myself with the different like platforms that I had, So my worry was, one of the worries was, well, if I bring Goji Fan back, what's it going to do to CJCuypers Productions? And I've looked at it and I've been like, well, here's the thing. CJCuypers Productions is supposed to be a different beast entirely. It's supposed to be this thing where I'm going to like write my book on it, or I'm going to make a video game. And if it takes off, great. If it doesn't, it's not that big of a deal, because I'm going to be searching for my job with my bachelor degree that I have now. But I
Mhm.
still want to make, and I call them like, YouTuber videos. I want to make
Yeah.
fun things just to interact with people. And that's what Goji Fan's for. So that's why CJCuypers no longer posts the YouTuber type videos. It's now on here. So it's given me this new perspective that I can coexist with all my ideas at once, and I don't have to feel like Goji Fan is overshadowing everything, because I'm still having a lot of fun with it. And now that, and I have a more seriousness, or like a serious attitude towards it, in fact of that it is a responsibility now that I have people that are excited to like watch what I have to do. And if they're not interested in moving over to like, if I make, like right now, I'm still in the finishing phases of Emergence of Monsters, my first book. And like, if
Mhm.
they're not interested in moving to there because it's not Godzilla related, I'm not going to be mad about it. Like, I get it. I get it. You came here for Godzilla content. That's what you want. Perfectly fine.
Right.
So, but before I always had that issue. That's where I got angry at the world. I was like, why
Right.
can't, people just like what, but that's also where an ego came in place. I had a
Yeah.
major ego back then. It was bad. It was very like, I was like, well, if I make Gamer Fan, or if I do Chris Kaizen, I should get the same amount of numbers that I do with Goji Fan. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
I've been there, done that. I totally get like, I think when we're young on the internet, like, we get so invested in the numbers because, like, that's, like, the
Yeah.
physical representation of, like, the belonging, right? Like, at
Hmm.
least that's the first exterior of it, but, no, like, when you were talking about kind of, like, having all of your different creative worlds collide, like, that really resonated with me, because I kind of went through something similar a few years ago, because I teach in higher education, so I'm very much, like, super analytical about like analyzing Godzilla. Like I used to love doing like video essays. I
Yeah. Yeah.
also
Yeah.
have a writing career. I'm a poet. Like I love weaving kaiju stuff into that. But like nobody, like, people were more interested in like the commentary type videos as opposed to those
Right.
other things. So as my audience got bigger, I kind of started seeing that like the people who were here to stay are the ones who will support me on all of those different fronts. And I
Yeah.
have no doubt that you probably have those people too who are like consuming like everything that you do because of
Mhm.
the I mean, because one, like you are very talented, but also two, because of that community you created.
Yeah, I do have pockets of fans that are like they will literally like follow and consume whatever I put out, regardless of platform. They're like, "Oh, he's doing something on CJCuypers Productions. Oh, cool. Oh, he's doing something on GojiFan. Oh, cool." Like, oh, he's doing something in Kenshin Studios. Oh, that's great. So there are fans like that I do have, and I also look at it this way. And this can help you too. This is advice for people who are struggling with either imposter syndrome or trying to like is this really like personality issues or something. But like I look at it this way, that if you are concerned with numbers, again, it's something that you shouldn't be fully focused on. But if it's something that you really do, like if that does help in some type of validation, because it does, I'm not gonna lie, if I got
Oh, absolutely.
1,000 views on a video in 24 hours and then the next one I got 50 views, I would be a little bit like, oh, I don't know, what. But
I get that, yeah.
I look at it this way, where the internet is hard to imagine. It's hard to picture how many people are actually looking at your stuff. If you would look at it compared to actually seeing them in a room. So I would look at it this way. If I made a video, like one of my latest videos, like let's say, I think I put out my unboxing of because I got the novels of the MonsterVerse stuff. So I'm looking at my channel now. So I have, 958 subscribers, and on the latest unboxing video, which back then was a very popular genre on the channel, it was, the unboxings were like the best thing, right? But I did it. It's got, in 18 hours, it's got 182 views. Now, normally, if you were someone who was very concerned with numbers, very analytical about it, and you were like, no, I need to make more, you would be very disappointed in that number. You're like, where's all the 900 people that are, I thought you're subscribed, where's the 900 number? But here's the thing. That's 187 people. Think about that. If they were all in a room, if you could visually see that there were that many people that came to see what you made, that's
Yeah,
huge. That's a big deal. Like, so I've had to
absolutely.
tell myself that even if 10 people viewed a piece of content, I have to look at it not through the lens of the internet, where the internet is the world. Like that, you have billions of people that are looking at, that could potentially look at stuff. But when you have a tight-knit community, and when you have people that follow you, like truly follow you, having 10 people look at something, that's actually pretty big. And then you look at like the likes, that's even a bigger count, because then they took engagement, where they're like, I'm going to take time to hit a button. And then you look at the
Yeah,
comments, and that's an even bigger turn of a number, because that's people actively taking their keyboards out and typing a thought. Regardless if it's positive or negative, it's still something where it's an engagement, where that person,
yeah,
the video did something to them, where they felt the need to do something to interact with the video. So
absolutely.
I would always look at it that way, that no matter what you do, any number is going to be like, hey, you did something that resonated with someone. So like, be happy with that, because obviously this is not your career. This is your bottom dollar does not depend on this, right? So this needs to still
Absolutely,
be
yeah.
something that's fun. And yes, even though I would love to grow it and continue to grow and, do ad revenue and all that good stuff, but at the end of the day, still, like, in order to really make it, like, to live off of YouTube, you have to be one of the big top people. I mean, you
Yeah,
can't,
you have to
it's
be,
like,
like, getting millions and millions of views, like,
yeah, it's yeah.
yeah,
So
and YouTube's made
it's
so many changes too, where
oh my
it's
god,
like,
and they're
you have to,
changing all
like,
the
catch
time.
lightning in a you have to, like, catch lightning in a bottle, sometimes,
Yeah,
so
exactly. I mean, even at the height, I mean, and I'm not afraid to disclose this, because again, I'm not partnered with this channel anymore. But way back in the day, the highest amount during the height of GojiFan, like the most popularity with the most numbers, I only made $1,000 in a month. You can't live
Mhm.
off that in today's time. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you still want to grow it, but I would look at it as a side hobby. It's like a side job. Like, I
Oh,
do
yeah.
this it's nice to get something back from it, but then at the end of the day, it's like, it's not something where I'm like, oh my god, I'm not going to be able to pay rent if I don't make this amount of videos. It's like, no, it's not, it's not there. And also, the fact that
Mhm.
we're making content about Godzilla makes it even harder, because, then you get into like ethical issues or copyright issues, and you're like, well, is Toho going to be okay with someone making a living
Right.
off of their property? So it's a weird battle, but there's nothing wrong with wanting to make it big on YouTube. There's nothing wrong with that. But I would say to people, don't go into it thinking that this is going to be your career. Like, it's very hard, and you have to be very lucky. For every success story, this is the thing that people don't say. For every success story, there are thousands of failure stories.
Yeah.
But people don't bring that up. And I don't know if it's because people are hesitant to bring people down. It's not that they're trying to bring them down. It's just, we're saying, don't set yourself up as this being the only egg in your basket. Like, have many different eggs going at the same time, and then one day something will pop off, and there you go. There's your moneymaker or whatever. So for me, that's what I have. I have many different eggs in baskets, and I'm just waiting for one of them to pop off. And that's
Same
just
here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're all doing.
Well, and like I had to let go of that like anxiety about numbers a long time ago, because like that used to be something that would really upset me too. And then like once I figured out my mental health and went on my therapy journey, which I'm still on and I still really appreciate, like I quickly learned that what you create is an extension of who you are. And so long as you're able to at least do that, that's what matters. Because there are so many people who may have creative ideas, who may have like these visions and desires of like putting things out into the world, but they never get to the point of making the decision to actually do it, right?
Because they're afraid it's not going to be successful.
Exactly. So the fact that we're able to do that, like that is significant, right? So like I periodically work with students who like they'll write, but they are very discouraged about like continuing it or putting it out in the world. And I always tell them, I'm like, if you put it out in the world, you may not get immediate response, but for those people who do encounter it, like you may not know how important your work may be for them. Like when I had like the first time I had someone tell me that one of my poems saved their life, it was like completely out of this world for me. And that's when I started realizing, I was like, okay, Donnie, like this isn't about the views. The views are nice. This isn't about the views, the reviews, the comments, or anything like that. It's about the people who encounter it, who may not say anything, and what legacy that leaves with them, right? So, ooh, I'm getting goosebumps now.
I know, but it's true. It's so true. I mean, it goes right back to the idea that, I might not get an immediate response on whatever, but the fact that 900 and something people subscribe to the channel, that's still a lot of people that are interested enough to be somewhat engaged with it, on a regular basis. It's like, wow, okay, like I'm doing something here, like something is going, yes, it's not going to make me a multimillionaire, but something is happening. And to be honest, I would much rather live in like doing something like this where it makes pocket change, like, hey, I can maybe afford a new mic, or I can get like whatever, but I would rather do something like this and fun, rather than having to freak out every time a video doesn't do well and be like, I'm not going to be able to afford rent or eat or whatever. Like it's that, again, that's why. And it does suck though in today's society. That's just kind of how the world is nowadays, where you have to sort of it's kind of a necessary evil where your hobbies have to somewhat turn into a side job to survive nowadays. I mean, many people are living off of 2 to 3 jobs, and some of those jobs were hobbies of theirs before. It's like, oh, you play a lot of video games? Well, now live stream them and make, like on Twitch, and make ad revenue from there. So it's kind of sad that hobbies it can't just be this luxury thing where you just do it for fun. Like you have to sort of have a little bit of a business mind behind it, be like, what can I do with this that maybe can be somewhat monetized or whatever. But at the same time, there's a healthy balance with it. Like it's totally great to monetize stuff, but at the end of the day, don't let that be the only thing that determines your success. It has to be like, and again, for me, that's why I branded the Goji fan tribute. I did like legacy, like because clearly there was a legacy that was left behind when I left for a few years. And so that's just the thing that I have to remember. It's like that many people especially the people who saved those videos and re-uploaded them. Like, that's the people that I'm doing this for.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it worth it, you know?